Hey, welcome. This is a little video for Juno and Pisces. So, if Juno is the asteroid that gives us some sort of signification around our committed partnerships, then being in Pisces tells us about the style. Now, Pisces is immutable, which means it moves in many directions. Water sign, which means that it is intuitive and perceptive and impressionistic. Is that a word? Able to work symbolically and work through impressions or make impressions. But it's a very it's a sign that it's not a verbal sign. It's a sign that does much better on, again, feelings and sensations and symbolic imagination and working in the realms of shapes and colors and textures in a way. So Pisces is compassionate. It's kind, it's creative, it's empathetic. It can extend itself out to anyone. So it is very it's focused on being compassionate and being able to understand others and their pain. So in Pisces, Juno is looking for the ideal relationship. Pisces loves things to be idealistic and beautiful, and Pisces is a little bit lost in fantasy sometimes. The partner that it can meld with, that Pisces loves to become one with something and live out its fantasies with. And so it's very sensitive, it's very sensitized. So even if you have like everything in Aquarius and the rest of it in Aries, if you have a Juno in Pisces, there's this like mushy heart that you have, or that you need to be able to express in your partnerships, most likely. Juno in Pisces might suffer from feelings of loss, abandonment, and may attract or be attracted to those that are in need. So savior complexes might arise in relationships, and one might need help distinguishing oneself from one's partner. And that doesn't mean that you have a savior complex, but maybe the people that you're with have one about you, or there might be some kind of messy boundary stuff that you have to work through. Pisces always wants to take in the wounded, the sick, the needy, the forgotten about. Pisces is has a natural affinity towards those that have been marginalized and left out. And so if that's how you function in relationships, then there's something about that might show up in your partnerships. And that, of course, that can be translated into something that is quite powerful in terms of its compassion and its ability to extend oneself out in recognition and in validation of the suffering of others, right? So if Juno understands the suffering, the plight of those that suffer, then Pisces is going to want to do something about it in terms of extending its feeling towards those that are suffering. There's that potential mix as well. Oh, you might also be like really attracted to people that seem really mystical and fancy and bohemian, or like flowy and like carefree, like surfers and stuff. That might be part of the attraction as well. But people that are less, people that are not rigid, people that are open, in a sense. Pisces is very open to life and all of its experiences. So I have one example chart here. Is Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison has, again, I've got a lot of these. The moon conjunct Juno, which gives an incredible reception, right? This is in Pisces. It's a water sign. It's just this incredible reception between the moon and Juno. So again, there's this real kind of lunar archetype, goddess kind of imagery that is evoked here. Now, Toni Morrison was married early in her life for a very short time. And then I don't know of any other relationships that she's had. If she's had them, they've not been in public, or she's not spoken about them. And so I can't really find a lot on her love life per se. So what I can then, where'd I go to if I don't know much about that? We can, ponder about it. If somebody came to me with this signature and they were like, I want a relationship and I haven't been able to have one for years and years, then I might say like, well, is there some high ideal that you have that you might be holding out for that isn't really realistic? Is it a fantasy? Is there a fantasy situation in terms of your relationships? But what we can say is that this is right next to the moon in Toni Morrison's chart, and the moon rules the third house of writing and communication and teaching and delivering one's message. And she's a writer, so the moon controls this part of her chart, and it's in the 11th house of hopes and dreams and giving things out to the people. It's also the place of friendships and allies and patrons. And so there's something connected here in terms of her relationships with her communities or the people that support her. And that it's this big kind of nurturing, possibly mothering or caring energy that comes through her that's very creative and very compassionate and very able to touch and connect to people, to the mass, to the audience in a way. And that might be more of a primary relationship than a one-to-one love relationship. Again, I don't know. We'd have to ask her, but that's what I would kind of say in terms of this. And it's also like, one of her most famous novels is Beloved, which is about a mother and a child, and the loss of that child and the effects of slavery and so that the moon is the symbol of nurturing and possibly speaks to our own mother or to motherhood or to that process of giving life. Then that the moon rules the third house of the stories that she might tell. Then there's some connection here around that, and maybe that whole process is perhaps what she's more committed to in life. Again, I'm just throwing that out there. But it definitely highlights this Piscean theme in her chart, again, which is one of poetics and story and feeling and being and fantasy, right? And so she doesn't write fantasy, she writes fiction, but there's an ability for her to use her imagination to enter into these like real liminal places and move into how the characters in her book would feel, and connects to us through that very raw feeling place. The Juno there just emphasizes that. I'll try to look for a better Juno and Pisces example in terms of relationships, or try to get more information on Toni Morrison for you. But again, if you've got Juno and Pisces, it is a big mythical love story generally. And so in Toni Morrison's chart, she might be writing about those big stories of relationship and all the heartbreak and all the stuff that goes through them. And also, if this is the ruler of the third house of writing and communication, and Juno's here, then part of the story of Juno, the one who is betrayed, the one who is left, the one who's cheated on, is going to be coming through her way of communicating, and might be connecting with folks on that level, or folks that have had those experiences. All right, so Juno and Pisces, it's pretty romantic. It's pretty wonderful when you're in it, and when it's not real and the bubble bursts and the fantasy ends, it's pretty intense, intensely disappointing. So if you have Juno and Pisces, it's really about finding that partnership that is your dream partnership, and not getting caught up in the ones that aren't going to be that for you, not wasting too much of your precious life energy in those. But really, there is that hope for that ultimate union between people. All right, lots of love. Hope that was helpful. More soon. Bye for now.